Good afternoon, Packers fans. Aaron Negler here with your Packers Daily Chat, coming to you live on the Cheesehead TV social channels. Hope you're all having a phenomenal Tuesday, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Always good to see everyone joining in, even on an off day when the Packers aren't practicing and there aren't a ton of headlines being made by the green and gold. We still like to chat about it, like to get together and talk about all the good things the Packers are doing, right? I know if it bleeds, it leads, and there will be complaints aplenty. But I do appreciate each and every one of you who stop by and make Cheesehead TV part of your daily Packers routine. I know I say that every day, but I really mean it. I was looking around kind of the blogosphere today, starting to get ready for Packer transplants tomorrow, trying to gather a couple tidbits here or there about stuff we could feature. And I got to say, there is so much great content, great coverage of the team being produced each and every day, all around the internet, the blogosphere, what have you. It really makes me kind of pause and think how lucky I am that you guys come here every day to chat about the Packers and, again, utilize Cheesehead TV in any way, shape, or form when it comes to your kind of Packers fandom, connecting with the team. I really do appreciate it. It does mean a lot. And to hear from each and every one of you pretty much every day here on the chat, but specifically when we have live events, when we have meetups, things like that. I love hearing from folks about how they discovered the brand, how they discovered the site, how they discovered the YouTube channel or the website or whatever. Really does kind of, make me pause and think how lucky I am I get to do this for a living. This is how I pay my rent. That's pretty insane. Like if you had told me even 5, let alone 10 years ago that would be the case, I would have said, you're pretty insane for even suggesting it. So really appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much for, like I say, just utilizing Cheesehead TV in any way, shape, or form, including coming to hear me talk about the need for Luke Musgrave to get more involved in the offense. Remember this summer? Remember how many times I was asked, and I was asked quite a lot, and we saw articles written about it and videos made about it, about how this was the year. This was going to be the year. There was going to be more two tight end formation stuff on offense. There were going to be more opportunities for the tight ends to get involved. Well, Tucker Kraft has certainly made the most of his opportunities, and he's been given plenty of opportunities. But once again, Luke Musgrave, even though he has been healthy, because that has been his bugaboo, right? That has been the issue through the first 2 years of his time on the roster, the inability to stay on the field, to not kind of be available for the majority of the season has been a problem. Musgrave has been available. He has just not been utilized to any great length. So now I understand there's a pecking order. I understand Kraft is the guy. But it sure feels like this is a team that is trying to cobble together offense while they're still juggling bodies at wide receiver with Wicks in and out of the lineup. They're down Watson and Reed, although hopefully they get Watson back this week. It just feels like somewhat of a no-brainer to feature your athletic tight end in the passing game a little bit more. And it's just sad because the one time you can really think of a pass to Musgrave, like in the last couple of weeks, that, they're definitely targeting Musgrave, was the throw that Jordan Love absolutely sailed. It made Musgrave look like he ran the wrong route. The throw was so bad, right? Then you come back the very next play, and he's throwing it to the rookie receiver down the sideline. Everything's hunky-dory. But it is just, disconcerting considering how good Luke Musgrave looked this summer. He looked like a bona fide weapon. Now, one of the reasons he got the opportunities he did is because Tucker Kraft was out with his own injury, and so Musgrave was getting a lot of run, and he answered the bell. So many times, day after day during training camp, he made, a litany of really good plays, nice plays, athletic catches, stuff on the sideline, down the seam. And then you get to the regular season, and he has all but disappeared. And now I understand there's data behind why you utilize certain formations or personnel groups against certain types of defenses and things you want to attack with certain formations and what have you. I get that there's a lot that goes into it. But it does feel like Musgrave could be a matchup problem for some defenses. And I do think that applies this Sunday. There's little doubt in my mind that if the Packers can go heavy in this game, i.e., 2 or even 3 tight ends, 12, 13 personnel, there should be matchup opportunities for Musgrave against this Steelers defense, particularly their linebacking core. I think this is a game where you can really unlock a lot of things by trying to get those bigger bodies out there. Obviously, yes, try to run the football, but start to try and maybe dictate to the defense who they're putting out there with your use of personnel. And Musgrave should be able to find advantageous matchups in the process. I'm not saying you got to spam him. I'm not saying he's got to catch 10 balls or whatever, but it does feel like he is something they could, utilize as an off-speed pitch, so to speak, on offense that you haven't put a ton of it on tape. It's not like they're game planning for it or waiting for it. Just feels like there are certainly times within the confines of the last couple games where they feel a bit stuck on offense. And it does feel a little bit kind of herky-jerky. They can't find a rhythm. I think, I'm not saying Musgrave is, quote, the answer, but he should provide you some kind of alternative that you might be able to utilize to get after these defenses. Again, starting on Sunday night in Pittsburgh. It's just one man's opinion. Doesn't mean a whole lot, but I'm throwing it out there into the ether. I know Matt LaFleur is a big-time Cheesehead TV subscriber. I have no doubt he's watching live. And Matt, you're welcome, buddy. How y'all doing? Good to see you all. Everybody chiming in. Sean starting us off with a super chat. Appreciate you, man. I am guilty of being a victim of the moment, but so does Matt LaFleur. We have too much talent for him not to just line up and let talent win instead of getting too fancy. Thoughts? All caps, 2 question marks, and 4 exclamation points? I mean, to a point, yeah, I understand what you're saying, and I somewhat agree as far as, just why are we making it so complicated on some of these third downs when maybe just run a slant to Romeo Dobbs? Seems to work quite a bit, right? At the same time, there's a reason there's the kind of jump in difficulty from regular season or from preseason to regular season. Because in the preseason, you're doing exactly what you're talking about there. You're keeping it simple and you are just letting your talent go out and try to win. And then you get to the regular season, everyone's like, wait a second, why are these, deep bombs that were available in preseason not available in the regular season? Because everything changes, and teams are studying your tendencies and trying to get their advantageous matchups when it comes to who you're putting out on the field. Things get a lot more complicated. I don't think you're off in the sense that it does feel like Matt sometimes overthinks it, maybe gets too cute by half. But again, as I was saying before, they have reams of information and things that we are not privy to when it comes to matchups and personnel usage and tendencies and things like that. That makes it hard to make it a blanket statement. That said, if you were watching on Watch Party, you heard me at the end of the game. They are so talented and they do need to seemingly get out of their own way. But it's not just the coaching staff. Makes it harder on the play caller when you're consistently getting behind the sticks because of a stupid offsides penalty, lining up incorrectly, illegal procedure, false starts. Those are things the play caller can't control, but now it's making his job exponentially more difficult because of instead of 1st and 10, you're at a holding call gives you, 1st and 20. Or a illegal procedure penalty gives you 1st and 15. I don't think there's a blanket, statement that you can make that figures it all out. I don't disagree that there is talent on display and on offer here that can be utilized, much like I was talking about here at the beginning. But to say it's just that, like just do that, that gets sussed out real quick by the opponent. Look no further than Mike McCarthy and his time, especially down the stretch there in Green Bay and kind of down the stretch in Dallas, right? Mike's whole system was predicated on, okay, we're going to spread it out. We're going to have guys win. Well, if you're a quarterback and you are, say we got 3-by-2 formation, right? And you expect this dude to win on your left, you look there, he doesn't win. Now the pass rush is getting to you. You look back and maybe this other guy has won on the other side, but if he doesn't, you are FUBAR. And now it's time to run around and try and make something happen. And when Aaron Rodgers was young and spry and could do that, it was fun and awesome. But as things, go along and defenses adjust, which they certainly did, then all of a sudden that gets real stale real quick. It's hard to count on guys, quote, winning every single down, you know? Again, I don't want to completely dismiss what you're saying there, Sean, because I think there's a grain, there's an element of truth there, right? It's just not as easy as saying just do that and having it happen, right? Nicholas, what's up, man? Defense is looking Joe Barry-ish again. I don't think I agree with that assessment. I think we've seen a number of times where they've come up and played press man, as so many of us, including myself, harped on incessantly when Joe Barry was in town. Problem is they're getting beat when they do it, which kind of necessitates the defensive coordinator playing a lot of mixes of zone coverages, right? And they want to come up and rally and tackle. And that's what teams are going to continue to do as far as paper cutting the Packers underneath, because they have done a phenomenal job of limiting explosive plays. You can't stop everything, right? Your hope and your approach there is, okay, you're going to force them to make 10, 12 play drives. And at some point, they are going to make a mistake and or you are going to get a stop. Now, they haven't done that quite as much as you would prefer. I get that. But on balance, they have limited explosive plays, which is usually where points come from. No doubt they had a big lapse there at the end of the first half. That's the one kind of moment I could say, okay, I might agree with you, right? When you give up a touchdown in that scenario is absolutely unforgivable. That is a major failure. But outside of that sequence, I think, they played them pretty straight up and they got after it with 4 as they should, and Parsons wrecked shop. And that's essentially kind of why they won the game, right? So again, I get the frustrations, especially in the moment while you're watching the game. But again, other than the end of the first half, I think they played exactly the type of game you would expect them to play. That should be a formula for winning football, especially if your offense is doing what it should, which it didn't in the first half. Randy, what's going on? Will Rodgers hold on to the ball this Sunday like he used to? I hope so. Packers getting sacks never gets old. I don't know, Brandy. He has been very good this year about getting the ball out of his hands and done so with a great amount of accuracy. I was talking with Billy earlier today on Carry the G radio. He is perfectly situated to make the Packers defense, feel like they're in hell. He has got that quick release, which he's obviously always had, but now he's got a lifetime of experience. He knows everything he's looking at pre-snap. He knows where to get the ball. I just think it's going to be hard for Micah Parsons and company to get after the QB in this one. I do think they'll have a plan for Micah, pass protection-wise, but even on top of that, Aaron's going to get the ball out. He's done it a lot this year, and I think he'll continue to do that, especially with Arthur Smith as his OC. There's going to be answers for him, right? Stuff out in the flat, quick slants, things of that nature. They're going to try and run the ball. That's what they've done, both with Smith there as the play caller, but certainly during Tomlin's time. They're going to want to run the ball. Packers have been decent stopping the run this year, no doubt about it, though. I think Arizona really kind of found some avenues there on the ground, which I think you can definitely watch the Steelers try to replicate, right? But yeah, Aaron's going to get the ball out of his hands quick. They're going to try and stay ahead of the sticks, and I suspect they're going to be pretty successful at it. So hopefully we can get them in a couple 3rd and longs and let, that front pin their ears back. Mike, what's going on, man? Hey, Nags, you see what Rex Ryan said about Jordan Love? Almost sounds personal to me. Yeah, it's weird, right? It's just a weird fixation where he's like predetermined that he doesn't like Jordan Love as a quarterback and takes every opportunity he has to say so. Hey, man, look, Rex Ryan knows ball. I'm not going to pretend like he's hasn't forgotten more defensive football than I'll ever know, obviously, but he's talking about quarterbacks. I don't know what kind of leg he has to stand on when it comes to how he analyzes or judges how quarterbacks play, because it's clear he ain't, done no jack shit given how little success he had at that position as a head coach. And, the idea that Jordan Love, who by every metric and by looking at the tape, has had a pretty phenomenal year. Yeah, it just feels, like I said, predetermined, and he's just confirming his priors regardless of what the evidence is in front of his face. Which, hey, man, they pay him to say that stuff, and then you come here and talk to me about it, and then now we're talking about it, and that's a win for ESPN, right? So I can't say they don't know the game. Nicholas, what's up, man? I think that knee injury broke Hobbs. I don't blame Goot. Yeah, that's an interesting kind of narrative at the moment. The pitchforks are out for Nate Hobbs. There's no doubt about it. And like I was talking to Billy about on Carry the G Radio today, anyone who was there this summer prior to his getting hurt saw a guy who could have been or could still be possibly a difference maker on this defense. A real physical presence, a guy flying to the ball, really good at whatever they were asking him to do, whether it was on the perimeter or in the slot. But yeah, that hit and then that surgery that he had on his knee certainly seems to have robbed a lot of the explosiveness. Certainly, apparently, has given him issues when it comes to some of the aspects of, you know, not just the back pedal, but getting up there at the line of scrimmage, turning and running, flipping those hips and getting upfield with some of these really talented wide receivers on the perimeter, cutting out of, the middle of the field when he is along the interior. I don't know. And I know what Matt said on Monday, that he's going to let him, continue to play and hopefully improve. And they believe that he will. Maybe that's the hope, right? That the further away he gets from that surgery and that injury, that he's going to round into shape and round into form. But he's had what, 2 months now, almost. And he didn't play those first couple games. So I guess he's rounding into where he would have been coming out of training camp at this point, right? Maybe that's just the time they think he's going to need to knock the rust off, get into shape, get into playing mode, whatever. But man, they cannot seriously look at what he's given them along the perimeter and in particular over the course of the last few games and continue on that course if that's what he gives them for like the next 4 games, let's say, and which is what I would think they'd probably give him. And I know no Packers fan wants to hear that, but that's my guess, right? That they go through the next 3-4 games and they continue to play him. And if it doesn't improve, I suspect then they're going to have some hard conversations, but they are going to give him every opportunity. They handed him a very significant contract in free agency. I would be shocked if they suddenly just shut him down, even with the injury, after 5-6 games, right? I think they're going to give him opportunities to, again, develop and grow in this system, hopefully find his form. That, again, we saw this summer. He looked good. But yeah, it's been hard to watch these last couple games. There's no doubt about that. Austin, how are you, man? YouTube wouldn't let me send a super chat from Japan. Well, that's unfortunate. Made it home just in time to go to the Cardinals game. Go Pack Go, and arigato for all you do. Austin, that is incredibly kind of you. Thank you so much. Welcome back, man, and appreciate the support. Joe, how are you, sir? The last time the Packers were 4-1-1, 1967, they went on to win the Super Bowl. So everyone can RELAX. Well, we all know, and I know you know this, Joe, but we all know that whatever happened in some other championship year doesn't correlate or mean anything in this season. It does provide examples, though, that, good things can happen. And you are on a path that could lead to victories and a championship. I get that. But we all know every year is its own journey, and I'm very excited to be on this one with all of you. How's that? Ed, what's going on, man? Odd. I've been trying to ask when will the Bikini Girls be honored at halftime and keep getting an edit pop-up, and where will their commemorative plaque be located? Ed, that is an insane pull. I haven't thought about the Packer Bikini Girls in like a decade. That's amazing, dude. That's old school right there. Now, they were big fans of Aaron Rodgers, so maybe they'll be in the crowd on Sunday night in Pittsburgh. We shall see. David, how are you, man? Hobbs got exposed. Do you think Goot goes to get a replacement? Any obvious options? Well, David, everything I just said about Hobbs should inform this answer. I don't think they think he got exposed, quote unquote. I think they think he's trying to round back into shape. And I mean, like how he plays, not like conditioning. Will they go get a vet? I highly doubt it. I think the much more likely scenario and avenue they go down is, again, continue to let him play. Hopefully he improves. If not, yes, they will continue to probably put in Valentine in certain situations. Maybe we start seeing Bo Melton in the mix as well, who, again, he as well had a good summer at corner. But I don't think, going and signing a vet free agent is probably in the cards. Possibly if someone does become available via, a cut or a waiver wire, maybe they take a look. I also think there's a possibility they go and look at someone else's practice squad, much like they did with Rasul Douglas back in the day. But any of the names that that are sitting out there, I would just be very surprised if that's the route. I'm not saying it's impossible, not saying they would never do it. But if they wanted to sign one of those guys, they would have done it by now. They would have done it this summer, right? I just think they like the guys they have in the house. And if it's not Hobbs, it'll be one of the other guys they already know and have trained through all of the offseason into the summer, into the regular season. Celestial, what's going on, man? Do you think the Packers will actually switch Valentine with Hobbs until Hobbs can show he can be competitive on the outside? No, I don't. I think they'll continue to play Hobbs. I know everyone wants the Packers to do something. But remember, this is a draft and develop program, and development is part of it. And developing not just your draft picks, but the guys, yes, that you sign in free agency to develop within your program. And now, case in point, Aaron Banks looked real rough the first couple games out of the gate, but he's coming off a pretty decent showing in Arizona. That's a guy who struggled with injuries, that hurt himself first day of pads coming on in camp. And he finally put together a pretty decent outing in Arizona. Now, it took a while, but there it is. And now hopefully he stacks that success, to quote Mike McCarthy. Hopefully that's what they find in Hobbs as he continues to play. Again, I know everybody's very reactionary, wants action. But sometimes it is about patience, and it is about letting guys continue to grow. Now, all of that said, don't get me wrong. I understand as Packers fans, we've been sold this before, right? And particularly by LaFleur, whether it is Joe Barry, whether it is Amari Rodgers, instances where they preached patience and practiced patience and it never paid off, right? I'm not under any illusions that this is a fail-safe route. It's just how they operate, right? And in a world where everything is very of the moment, go, 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 very instant reaction, we do want action each and every week. If that guy had a bad game, put him on the bench or even cut him, put somebody else in there. It's just not how they usually operate. Look at how long it took for them to make a switch at right guard. They got Jordan Morgan in there now, finally played the full game there in Arizona. But even when they went to Morgan after the bye week, they were still rotating with Sean Ryan, right? And that was after 5 games. I think Hobbs is going to get opportunities. Now, I do think they might be reaching a threshold where they start to make some moves and or turn things to, other bodies if Hobbs doesn't show improvement, but just don't think they're there yet. Celestial, what's up? Freiermuth and Washington need to be circled. What? You're going to need an extra pen for Washington. That is a big dude. And yes, you are 1,000,000,000% correct. What did I talk about last week about Trey McBride? He's going to get his, right? Well, he certainly got his against the Packers. Now here come Freiermuth and Washington, 2 other tight ends that are going to give the Packers all sorts of hell. Couldn't agree more, man. They are going to be a problem for this defense. I very much agree. Chris, what's going on, man? Going to the game on Sunday with my father-in-law, who's a Steelers fan. I need our boys to come through. Chris, Godspeed on your quest, but I will remind you, and I know you don't want to hear it, but the Packers have not won in Pittsburgh since 1970. Bart Starr was their quarterback, not their coach, their quarterback. That's how long it's been since the Packers got a W in Pittsburgh. Godspeed, brother. Travis, thank you, sir. Seems like 2-1 pass blocking is better than run blocking. Maybe the old West Coast passing to set up the run. Travis, I don't disagree, but I just don't see LaFleur switching anytime soon. I love an old school Holmgren style offense where you are, getting it out to a bunch of different dudes, 8, 9, 10, even hell, 11 different targets at times with Favre back in the day to set up, Edgar Bennett and Dorsey Levens. I am all about that life, but I don't think LaFleur is, and I don't think he is ever going to be. Again, man, I love the idea, and I agree. I think they are a better pass blocking line. I don't think anybody would argue that point, but he has a way of operating, and I've said it many times. There is no creature in my world that I've ever met in my life that is more stubborn than a football coach, and that is what LaFleur definitely is. High powered, what's up? Will we see vintage MVP Rodgers this Sunday night? Somewhat. I think it's going to be hard for him to be vintage Rodgers in the sense of trying to push the ball down the field. This Packers defense is legit when it comes to putting the kibosh on explosive plays, especially deep passes. But I think we will see vintage Rodgers as far as his pinpoint accuracy, getting the ball out of his hands quickly, the speed of release, things like that. Yeah, I think he'll have a good game. And the hope here is, of course, that the Packers are able to be a little bit more consistent on offense, possess the ball a little bit more, elongate some of those drives that end in touchdowns rather than field goals, and they have the ball last and are able to get a victory that way. Because I do think Rodgers and company, they're going to move the ball and they're going to score. I'm resigned to that fact. Marshall Duke, what's going on, man? Hey, did you see how incensed Rodgers got when his own lineman tackled him in celebration? Imagine how we react when our pass rush gets to him. Well, the pass rush part is part of the game. I think the dude tackling him, it was unexpected. It was from behind. I think, everyone saw how upset he got. Bakhtiari retweeting that thing and pointing out how funny it was. That was wonderful. It is a bit, of a kind of a great, I don't know, open window into the difference between Favre and Rodgers. Like, that's the kind of shit Favre would have loved, right? And it just pissed Rodgers off something fierce. Your guy was happy for you and tackled you he was trying to hug you and grab you and you tag and you fell to the ground and it was funny, man. It was fun. It was a great moment. Great moment that the quarterback didn't appreciate. It's just funny. Mike, what's going on, man? Been watching you on Packers Daily since the days of your old crooked lampshade in your old room. Those were the days, Nags. Bring back drunk cheese. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like I said earlier, this is how I pay my rent now. I don't know how long I'd be paying my rent if I brought back drunk cheese on the regular. But those were good days. Those were a lot of fun. No doubt about it. And I appreciate you, man. Thanks for being with us for as long as you have. Marshall, what's going on? Do you think Hobbs is a victim of what happened with Demarius Randall playing out of position? Randall was pretty decent safety with the Browns until he wasn't. Yeah, I do think there's something to be said for that, right? Their projection of, he can play perimeter for us while he's been or had been a pretty damn good slot corner for the Raiders. Possibly. It's a very good, what's the line? There's a lot of smoke there, but there's some fire. I think there's a decent chance that is he is a victim of the attempt to project him into something he's not. Greg, what's going on, man? Not referendum, but do you see us making a move for a cornerback at the trade deadline? If not, do we hang it up, fire everybody, and hope we win the offseason like Bears fans? Greg. Okay. That feels pretty overreactionary. No, I don't see them making a move at the trade deadline. Not to say it could never happen, but I doubt it. But yeah, if they don't, that don't mean they're dead in the water. Let's say that. I understand, again, as I was saying earlier, the desire to do something, to make a move. But there's other players on this roster, and I would be very surprised if they overpaid to try and go get a corner. Ed, what's going on, man? After surgery, my knee wasn't right until one day it was. Hopefully, Hobbs will get okay sooner rather than later. Yeah, especially with all the rehab and all the facilities and everything available to him. Here's hoping. Randy, what's going on, man? I would love to see a halfback draw now and again. I know all us old heads want all the hits. I want a halfback draw as well. I want a classic screen to the halfback, not these wide receiver screens and tight end screens that have become all the rage. I hear you, man. I'm with you. I think they could invite the rush up and use a delay or a draw or something every once in a while, spice it up a little bit, right? But again, we are simply observers, casual, that sit here on the outside looking in, pining for things we've known to be successful in the past. Whereas Matt, Adam Stenovich, the offensive staff, these are lifelong trained professionals who sit and break down the data, look at the tendencies, look at the tape, and come up with their game plans and their call sheets and things like that in a way that is way beyond anything we've ever known, right? But that said, yeah, I'd love to see a draw. Old school draw to the halfback. Let's go. Quinn, how you doing, man? Wanted to apologize to the Packer fan. I bought a new hat and wore it Sunday instead of my usual hat. I changed it at halftime. Well, see, there you go. Now we know why the first half was the bad half, as it was, because you had the wrong hat on. Love it. Love it. Well, now we've at least solved the mystery. That's good to know. All right, everybody, I got to get going. We got happy hour at the top of the hour for all you Patreon members, Carry the G Club members. The information is on your respective pages. I'll see you there. Well, we got Sharif here, the last minute super chat. What's going on, man? Nags, I know it's a long season, but what the hell happened to us? First 2 weeks, we were world beaters. Now we are barely winning these games. The NFL happened. Did you watch the Bills and the Eagles lose their games? Now, obviously, the Eagles won this last game, but they look like world beaters too. And then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, tape gets watched, adjustments gets made, and off you go. It is very, very difficult to be dominant in this league. And by the way, barely winning a game against the Arizona Cardinals is exactly what the Indianapolis Colts did, who are probably playing the best football in the league right now, 2 weeks ago at home on their own home turf. It is a week-to-week league. I understand everybody wants to blow everybody out, but that is not what the NFL is in the year of our Lord 2025. It just isn't. Man, I pine for 1996 as much as anybody. But even then, even in 1996, when they had the number one defense and the number one offense and the best special teams in the league, they had a stretch where they had to scratch and claw and figure it out. That is just part of football, right? But especially exponentially more so in 2025. It's the best answer I can give you, man. All right, got to go. Thanks, everybody. Please do me a monster favor. Hit like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and then tell your friends and tell your family. Cheesehead TV, we are devoted to Green Bay Packers fans worldwide. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great night. Go Pack, go.